Now you're probably looking at this going, that's great, Scott, but you have an agent. You have someone to go to meetings for you. And I think part of marketing for almost all photographers is getting an agent. Having an agent is an absolute game changer. But it's not as simple as having any old agent. You need the right agent, you need a good agent, and someone who understands your style of work. And this is why it's so important to have that very small niche. An agent won't represent you if they don't know what you are, because they have to be able to go into a room and go, this is our graphic food photographer, Scott. My agent represents other food photographers, but they have very different styles to me. I'm going to go through the portfolio that I use to get my agent so you can see what it is that I put out there, what it is that I put forward to get the agent and why it worked. And I think this is something you should all be aiming towards as well. So part of your Marketing Monday should be following these agents, researching these agents. And don't worry, I know this is all very scatterbrained at the moment with all the information. I'm going to tie it together at the end. But because it all sort of ties in together throughout the workshop, we have to ping back and forth. This is probably a thing you're going to want to watch twice. But yes, so getting the agent is key. And I'm going to show you that portfolio. We're going to have a look on the computer and I'm going to show you how to find agents and what you should be looking for in an agent, who might be the right agent, how to approach them, how not to approach them. I've probably still got the email that I sent to Lisa, so maybe I'll try and drag that up if I can find it and show you that as well. Let's dive into the computer and have a quick look. What we have here is the portfolio that got me signed. This is the exact version that went to Lisa. And this is just a PDF. You can knock it up in like PowerPoint and just save it as a PDF. I did mine in some Adobe software. Doesn't need to be anything fancy. Also doesn't want to be full res because you're sending it via email. Make it low res. This is low res. This is poor quality. They don't need to see how detailed your lens and sensor is. They need to see a clear graphic style of food photography, in my instance, maybe not yours. So anyway, first off, my name and then an image which this image is very much me. If I had to sum myself up at the time, this would be it. And you can see here we've got the greens and it sort of works together side by side. Building a portfolio is a workshop in itself. I could spend hours explaining how to do it. But here we go. It's all this bold graphic work. I'm not trying to tick on, and you see how poor the image quality is when it's stuff like this. It's a web res image, stretched huge. But they don't need to see the image quality. No one cares about the image quality until it's actually going to print. This is what I do. This is the style of work I go for. And it's a big body of work as well. You can see 110 pages. And as you can see from this, it is all very much of a certain style. It is clear that this is my work. Apart from that one shouldn't have been in there. That was a mistake. I'm not going to go, I'll bore you with the whole thing. This is when I go into my like ooey gooey sort of food photography, because I was still a bit scared of fully committing. But she'd already seen enough from that first bit, and she asked straight away, which one's you? And I was like, it's the first one. The other one's just here for the sake of having stuff here. Then I've got a few tear sheets at the back, just to show that I have actually done work. Then my details, phone number, don't phone me on it. My email address, my web address. It's just a very straightforward thing. Quick PDF, shows you what I've done, shows you who I've shot for, the sort of work I've been doing, all of that sort of stuff. And it's just my style of work. So I've had a hunt for the email I sent my agent, but it doesn't exist because it turns out I phoned her. And I've realized this because the first correspondent I have back is her saying, thanks for calling. I did email her my stuff afterwards, but it's not really an introductory email that will make that much sense or be of that much use to you. But here's what you should do. You should jump onto the AOP's website if you're UK based or American or European and you want a London agent as well as wherever you may be. You should jump on there, go to find an agent, have a look through the agents. And what you're looking for here is, who do they represent? What sort of work do they represent? Is it that they only do fashion? Are they a big agency where they represent lots of people and they have multiple people of each genre? Is it very clear that they only represent one person from each genre? So much so that they only have one food photographer regardless of whatever subgenres there could be? Or do they have multiple food photographers who have very different and distinct styles or fashion, whatever your kick may be? Or do they even have multiple within that niche? How big and how broad is it, and what do you want to be within that? Because I've always wanted to be in a smaller agency. I like to know that I can phone my agent on a phone and go, look, things are going bad. I'm not happy with this. What's going wrong? What do I need to do to get better, basically? And some of the agencies are really big, and some people thrive on that because they have constant work coming through, and it's a big, busy environment. Some of them are literally one person, and they only represent one photographer at any given time. So you want to make sure that, as well as applying to be represented, they're also following these people on social media. Now, the cruel fact of the matter is agents only exist in very specific cities: London, New York, Paris, Shanghai, Sydney. That's kind of it. And that's where all the big adverts happen. Now, myself, of course, living in Leicester, I had to pretend that I was sort of more London than I actually am, even though I'm pretty close. But the fact of the matter is, if you live in the back end of nowhere like I do, it is incredibly hard to make it as a commercial photographer or any sort of professional photographer, because everybody comes into the big cities. Now, once you've become recognised, you can move out, you can be further afield. But for those initial years where you're trying to get spotted and you're trying to be recognised and accepted, if you live in the middle of the countryside or in Wales in the countryside, it's very, very hard. Not impossible, but you're certainly fighting with your hands tied behind your back. Likewise with agents. If your agent isn't based in one of these big cities, I'm sure they can get you work, but it won't be the same as having a London agent. And this is something which regularly people have, I live out here. Do you think I could still make it work? I could travel then? You can, but you need to be traveling there, not just for when you have the jobs, but also for socializing, for networking. You need to be making sure you're going to the right places, meeting with the right people. Like when we look at the portfolios, going to show your book at the right places and having those contacts there, which is very hard to build from outside of the city. Sometimes you need to rely on things like, do I know somebody who has a similar hobby to me? Like, I'm a cyclist, I love cycling, so it's quite easy for me to find other cycling fans who also love cycling within these businesses, and I can sort of get in that way a little bit, and we have something in common which makes it nice and easy, and it's not this horrific ice-breaking thing where it's just two random strangers. So that's my views on having an agent. You don't have to have one. The marketing that you're doing for the rest of this Marketing Monday is the same marketing you should be doing if you want to get an agent. Life is easier with an agent. Life is more expensive with an agent. They take a good cut of money. It's a good 25% of certain line items like usage and day rate. So they are expensive, but at the same time, the extra work that they bring in, the marketing they can do for you, the sort of like tick of approval that it gives you as a brand and as a photographer is also very useful when you're unknown. So me going to London by myself, I'm nobody, but having Lisa backing me, that is a big deal.